I'm Bob Lamphere. We'll back this up with our $1,000 guarantee. At Beaverton Honda, we have a huge inventory, including the hard-to-get models, a courteous sales staff, honest low prices, customer satisfaction, and service after the sale. See us for your bestie on Preludes, Accords, and Civics. We'll back this up with a $1,000 guarantee at Beaverton Honda in downtown Beaverton.
Into the throw it in, rip it open, take it out world of convenience food comes a revolutionary new idea, cooking. Introducing the Budget Gourmet Quick Stirs, delightfully wholesome cooking that lets you create wonderfully fresh-tasting complete entrees in just 6 deliciously short minutes. Budget Gourmet Quick Stirs, a revolutionary new idea in convenience food, cooking. Easy going, always rolling.
All aboard Amtrak.
White supremacists prepare for war. Next, Inside Edition.
The views expressed on Town Hall are not necessarily those of KATU or Fisher Broadcasting Incorporated. The U.S. government is waging war on drugs, but alcohol is a far greater killer. Fetal exposure to alcohol is the leading cause of mental retardation. Half of traffic deaths are alcohol-related. 1 in 4 American families is harmed by alcohol abuse. In total, alcohol costs our country over $100 billion a year. Is it time to make alcohol the focus of the war on drugs? The new Prohibition movement, next on Town Hall. And now, your moderator, Jack Faust.
Alcohol and the pendulum, it swings back and forth. 70 years ago, it swung way over here, and we prohibited it entirely from this country. Then it started swinging back. We did away with prohibition. It continued to swing to a point where really alcohol was glorified in this country, in the movies, entertainment figures, notably the lovable, hard-drinking character of John Wayne. Now there's evidence that maybe the pendulum is swinging back, that more and more of society is less and less tolerant of alcohol, its abuse, and its use. How far will the pendulum swing? How far should it swing? That's Town Hall tonight. And first, I'm going to ask if you'd introduce yourself, sir. Yes, sir. Right there, you, sir.
My name is Anthony Taylor, and I'm a founding member of the Partnership for Responsible Drug Policy.
Well, and the reason I'm singling you out, Mr. Taylor, is because you sent something to Town Hall with some suggestions on how to deal with the alcohol problem. One of your, I'll take number one, you say there shall be, this is your program, there shall be no advertising of tobacco or alcohol, and no alcohol-sponsored sports events. Almost all of them now sponsored by alcohol, it seems, but you say none of those. Next, you say bars, taverns, and lounges will be phased out over the next 5 years. And then all drunk driving offenses, not the first or third, mind you, but the first, I would say, not the third, will result in forfeiture and seizure of the vehicle. That's a pretty tough program, taking away people's business and property. How do you justify that?
Well, I've been lobbying over the last 9 years on drug law and controlled substance legislation, and I've seen it go from bad to worse, involving controlled substance specifically. And it just seems to me that the amount of damage being done by alcohol and tobacco far outweigh the damage being done by the controlled substances combined, and it's time to stop having it both ways. We're either going to have to deal effectively with the recreational use of all drugs by society, or we're going to have to close it down and make it all personal, private behavior.
Would you identify yourself, please?
I'm Dennis Donan. I'm the Director of Development for CODA.
And what's CODA?
CODA is Comprehensive Options for Drug Abusers.
Now, what I have to say to you is this country has declared itself into a war on drugs. And your organization, in a sense, is on that front line. We hear about cocaine, crack, heroin, tearing our people apart. Why isn't this a diversion to be talking about alcohol? This has been around a long time. Is this truly a problem?
No question, alcohol and tobacco are probably the 2 most devastating drugs in American society. Depending on how you wish to compare.
Well, let's just take alcohol, because that's the program tonight.
Okay. You have about 200,000 people in the state of Oregon who have alcohol problems significant enough to require some assistance. You've already listed most of the problems associated with alcohol, traffic accidents, but you also should include some suicides, majority of all drownings.
Majority of all drownings?
I understand that. That's what my research indicates. Also, many small plane crashes involving alcohol as well. We have someone here who represents the fetal alcohol syndrome problem, and
well, we hear about drug babies. What about the alcohol babies?
It's a problem that's much larger than the drug babies, at least in this state. And again, there aren't enough funds to help us provide the treatment around the drugs, let alone the alcohol and the drugs as well.
Now let me embellish your remarks a bit. We have a font here, what we call it. We can put on for our viewers here. And look at here. This is the argument, the question there, the worst drug. 18 million alcohol abusers in the U.S. Half of the traffic deaths, you said that, half of the drownings, 4,200 babies born alcohol affected in Oregon, and now that bottom line there, total cost to society, $136.3 billion. Can that really be right?
If you factor in all the damage that's done, the number of people who are in hospitals, the on-the-job accidents, the cost of law enforcement, the tort system, all these things are involved in the cost of what we pay for alcohol.
Those are numbers. Let's personalize it. Would you identify yourself, please?
Hi, I'm Victoria Goodrich. I'm an addict alcoholic.
What does it do personally? We've heard the numbers. I want you to personalize this. What can it do to one person?
Well, it devastates your life. It devastates the lives of those that you are living with or surrounded by. It's alcohol, I think, is the most devastating of all the chemicals available to us, is because it's so socially acceptable. Advertising glamorizes it to the extent that if you want to be the gal in the yellow bikini with the nice body and the handsome guy, go out and get yourself a beer. And the reality of that is the people that I know that have quit drinking are closer to having those kind of bodies than they did when they were drinking. But beyond that, it's just the devastation. The devastation, it completely corrupts and destroys relationships with other human beings, and it's not worth the price. It wasn't for me.
Well, if the price is $130, I have a question for you. If the price is indeed, besides the personal cost you outlined, $136 billion a year, all these problems, these deaths we've seen, why hasn't it been banned? Why isn't it banned? I'll put that to you, Dennis. Why?
Alcohol's been ingrained since the start of American society and before that. And I do have to agree that one of the things that is disturbing for me, at least, is that you see alcohol promoted as it's the soda pop for adults. And I think when hard liquor was banned from advertising, the public got into a mindset where they said, beer and wine aren't as dangerous. You can't really be an alcoholic if you drink beer and wine. And
wasn't that true?
Not my understanding. The thing that I kind of object to is watching, as I scan past on cable, something like MTV, to see a beer commercial on a channel like MTV, and I'm assuming that the demographics on their audience might not quite be to the age of majority yet.
Now, let me get some ideas. Let me ask you people here. We've seen the problem. How many people here would like more controls on the sale and promotion of alcohol? How many say, yes, I would favor more controls? What kind of controls? Give me some ideas. Higher taxes on alcohol is suggested back there. What else? What are some other ideas? Right there, you ma'am.
Ban advertising.
Ban advertising. What other controls are people suggesting? You, sir.
More objective information for the consumer to use.
Such as?
Such as the ingredient labeling, that the constituent ingredients that comprise the alcoholic beverage, the alcohol content now in the beer. For the Blitz Weinhardt.
Yes, sir. What else?
Reduction of availability, and what the gentleman said, the gradual phasing out of the widespread bars, taverns, and stores that sell the product.
Nodding toward prohibition. What else? What other suggestions are there that are floating out there? What have we missed? Right there, you, sir.
Public education towards treatment for the problem drinker or the alcoholic with a severe problem.
Where's Randy Hoff? Is she here?
Here.
There you are. Now, there's an idea you had that came in. What's your idea that would help?
We would like to see signs posted at a point of purchase for alcohol, warning pregnant women that alcohol and pregnancy do not mix. That
now, you
can
say
cause
point of purchase. Do you mean in just liquor stores?
Liquor stores, taverns, grocery stores, anywhere that you can
Restaurants?
buy. Restaurants.
Anywhere you'd like the signs up. Let's talk about some of these. The one that seemed to get a little vigor here, what's the case for banning advertising? Who wants to state the case for banning the advertising of alcohol? Who wants to state that case? You first brought it up, Victoria. Do you want to state it?
I would just like to see it not glamorized. I don't have so much a problem with the advertising. It's just the way that they target it. They link it in with sex and beauty and the active people, and it's just, I don't like that because the kids are watching that kind of stuff, and they think, well, gosh, when I get to be 21, I'll just grab a beer and, hey, I'm set. As far as eliminating it altogether, it's an addiction for a lot of us. It doesn't matter. You can take it away. You can put it underneath a pipe somewhere, and we're going to find it.
How does banning the advertising, who else has favored banning the advertising? Let me see the hands with there. What's that going to do, in your view? Identify yourself, please.
My name is Gary Johnson. I'm an addict alcoholic.
How's that going to help if we ban the advertising?
I think it'll help for the fact that just what Victoria just got through saying, that the way that advertising is being targeted, it's making it look like it's fun for people. People, you know, they go out and try something that's fun. You know, if it looks like it's going to be out there to go out there to have a good time and enjoy yourself, people are going to go out there and try to do something like that. You know, it's targeted all wrong, and they need to show. You know, they need to have more talk shows just like this, so people can state their mind and make people see that this is not the way alcohol is. It's not always fun. It's an addiction.
Anthony Taylor, it's one of your suggestions.
Well,
Why?
Not only do we need to prohibit the advertising, but we also, for one, it sends a bad message.
You really mean prohibit the advertising, too. You don't mean just put warnings on it.
No,
yeah,
prohibit it out and out, because it sends the wrong message to our children. And hand in hand, we also have to implement a policy similar to Proposition 99 in California a number of years ago that instituted and mandated the state to run anti-tobacco advertising. So we need to do that with alcohol and tobacco, just as we're doing with the partnership for
you envision a one-way street on the advertising. When I see television, I don't see any beer ads. The ads I see are for moderation and for abstention. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Let's turn to the advertising people. You, sir, please identify yourself.
Yeah, my name's Stan Sitzer, and I'm representing the Portland Advertising Federation.
Now, how do you feel about that? There's banning advertising. There goes your product.
The point I'd like to make is that if a product has the legal right to be sold at retail, it has a right to tell its story, and that's called commercial speech, and it's protected under the First Amendment. But separately, I think alcohol abuse is a complex and deeply seated problem. It's a problem that's not caused by advertising, and
but
so
now, what
if
do
you
you say
reduce
about the point they just made about, and we all know that the advertising, what they show, they don't show people who look much like losers on your ads. They show successful athletes, good, young, vigorous people enjoying.
I think the consumption of beer and wine is a part of a balanced lifestyle in moderation. I think if you reduce or eliminate the advertising, you're not going to reduce or eliminate the problem. Look at Russia. In Russia, it's hard to get alcoholic beverages. When you find them, they're expensive. There's absolutely no advertising of alcoholic beverages, yet they have one of the largest alcohol abuse problems in the world.
Just saying it doesn't work.
No, it's unnecessary because it won't work.
What does the advertising do?
What does beer and wine advertising do? It promotes the choice of one brand over another.
Does it promote consumption?
I don't think so. In the last 10 years, in constant dollars, the advertising expenditures on beer, for example, have gone up 40%. The per capita consumption has actually decreased, so I don't think it promotes overall consumption.
You had your hand up. Identify yourself, please.
Yeah, I'm Paul Romaine. I'm an attorney, and I represent the beer and wine distributors of
What
Oregon.
do you say about that? Does the advertising increase consumption?
Advertising is basically used for brand switching now rather than creation of new drinkers. But let me get back to a point earlier. Alcohol has been around since the creation, literally. You had Sumerian tablets. The first Sumerian tablets found, everybody thought they were religious writings, turned out to be a beer recipe. You have wine, which is used in most of the major Western religions to either identify with, be part of the religious service, or in some it's actually transformed into the part of a deity. You're talking about a product that's been around forever, and it's going to be around. You're not going to be able to ban it. Now the question is, can you somehow moderate its use, control it to the degree necessary, and not allow certain people to get to the product? Industry itself has gone a little bit overboard in advertising. Industry will be the first to admit it. There have been promotions that are absolutely outrageous, and some of the beer companies have been involved in it. But what they're learning through pressure from groups like people have been speaking today is that's unacceptable. So what you're finding with advertising now is a very responsible message that's coming across. Yes, there is a message that it's good, and you can, if you are able to drink it in moderation and have a good time. But you're also seeing ads that say know when to say when.
All right, let's see. In fact, we have some of those ads. If we could there, let's give our viewers a look at what might be called the temperance alcohol advertising.
We got a rap, we want to play it on you all. When you're having a beer, you gotta make the right call. Know when to say when, hear what I'm saying. Check it out. Know when to say when, say it again. Know when to say when. Keep control of your game, don't follow the pack. Know when to work, know when to kick back. Be cool, stay cool when you're having a beer. Know when to say friend, yo, I'm out of here. Know when to say when, say it again. Know when to say.
All right, proponents of a ban, what they're saying is this. They're saying two things. First, it won't work. It doesn't do any good. Second, they're saying we're being responsible. We're advertising moderation. How do you respond to that? Proponent? Yes, sir, right there.
My name's Jason. I'm a recovering alcoholic and an addict. And from my experiences of watching the commercials and being involved in the alcoholic life, is that when you watch commercials, you see the glamorous part. What you're not seeing is how many people are destroyed by the alcohol and lives are made worse.
So you think that it will work if you ban it? What about you, sir, right there? Identify yourself.
My name is Tim Zane. I'm a recovering alcoholic and drug addict. And responding to the gentleman whose statement that it's always been around, I think I read in Genesis about green herbs with seeds, and I think that you'll probably find marijuana's been around for a long time. Alcohol just had an extraordinarily successful lobbying run in the 1920s when the Volstead Act was in effect. They legislated themselves into being the only drug of availability in the United States. The idea of moderation and expressing moderation is wonderful. I personally have the disease of alcoholism. Moderation isn't in my game. It's not my game plan. If I drink, I'll drink too much.
Back to you, Anthony Taylor, because again, you talked about a complete ban of the advertising. What evidence do you have that banning alcohol advertising would do any good?
Well, I think that the evidence that we see in the reduction of tobacco use after the tobacco ads were taken off television is fairly, speaks for itself fairly well. And I think that with the ban and the anti-alcohol commercials also, I think we're going to see a drastic reduction in alcohol consumption, especially by the 18 to 21-year-old group.
Right there.
My name is Jenny Cook. I'm a criminal defense lawyer. I think that a ban on alcohol and all kinds of advertising is a great idea. It's going to make lawyers like me rich. The question that I think people have to answer is how many of our civil rights we're willing to give up to enforce a certain standard of morality.
Mm-hmm. In the back, you sir.
Use alcohol and have used in the past marijuana. But my feeling is they don't advertise cocaine, they don't advertise marijuana, they don't advertise crack. But does that seem to stop the use of it?
Ma'am, right there.
My name's Joan Johnson, and I have a daughter who's been through treatment, and my concern is to get to the adults. And where are the adults in Oregon, for example? There's a new awareness. We didn't know in the old days that alcohol was so terribly bad for us. And in the Catholic Church, I was raised thinking alcohol is normal.
Part of the Mass.
Right, exactly. And my concern is, what are we saying to our kids? It's alcohol's okay, just have a little bit. Well, then have just a little bit of crack. That's crazy. And I think total prohibition is totally absurd. I don't think we can do it. But what a statement we would make to the kids. That's where my heart is. What are we saying to the kids?
How do you respond to that? What do we say to the kid? Right there, you, sir.
Letterman, Franklin, Oregon.
How do you respond to the idea that it would be a message to the kids if we banned the advertising? It would show that we don't approve of this.
The advertising industry is contributing over $1 million a day in free space and time to promote moderation and non-use of advertising. The Partnership for a Drug-Free America, with the gentleman referred to earlier, is an effort by the industry, the alcohol industry, the advertising industry, the media, to try and respond to that socially and positively.
Awareness was a word that was just used here, and I'm going to focus that word to you because that leads us into your suggestion. Well, your suggestion was labeling information, and specifically labeling as to the alcohol content. What would that do?
Well, I think what it would do, Jack, is to begin to give consumers useful information that they can use to begin to counter these promotional campaigns that we see. I mean, it's great that the industry is giving $1 million a day to promote responsible use of alcohol. it's also going to spend this year about $2 billion to promote and glamorize its product. So if we can reserve part of the label of a beer bottle, a wine bottle, a distilled spirits bottle for objective consumer information that discloses the ingredients and also discloses the alcohol content, we can then have consumers armed with tools that they can use to shop more responsibly.
What will they, more responsibly, but will they shop more responsibly? What choices will they make? If they come there and they see two beers, and one says 5% and one was 7%, what are they going to reach for in your view?
They're going to reach for the lower content, because we've seen that in countries that have this requirement currently. In many European countries, in Canada, in Brazil, consumers are switching down. They're buying lower content malt beverages. And it's also a trend in this country. We see consumers switching down and buying lower alcohol beverage products. So if we give them that information up front and we allow them to use that as part of their purchase decision, we think that trend's going to continue even more.
Would you identify yourself, please?
I'm Bruce Vaughn, president of Blitzweinhardt.
Now, your company has taken a stand. I think that a lot of people are thinking, well, now you're going to give the counter to that argument. But what is the proposal that your company has made?
We've proposed to Oregon Liquor Control Commission that we be allowed to put the alcohol content on our label.
And because that has to be allowed, as I understand it, you have to have a law to allow you to do that. Isn't that correct?
Federal law prohibits alcohol content.
Why would you do that? Here you are, you make Henry's, you make Blitz. Why do you want to put the alcohol in? Why are you supporting this?
Well, we believe the answer to abuse of alcohol is education. And this is a way that we can do it. We're a regional company without the marketing budgets of the national brewers. We can't go on television and spend $40 or $50 million on a say when to say when campaign, but a say when to say when campaign that does not give the amount of alcohol so that they can make a reasonable choice is a rather hollow campaign.
Is Irene Fermat here? Irene, would you identify yourself to our viewers, please?
Irene Fermat, General Manager, Hood River Brewing Company.
And Hood River Brewing Company, what is your label?
Full Sail Ales.
Full Sail Ales.
And we're a microbrewery, which is one of the small growing industries in the Northwest.
What do you think of this? Is this a good idea to just...
The labeling requirements for us, it's on a technical level. We have no problems with it. What we don't want is it to be done on a state level. We want it to be done federally because it creates incredible logistical problems for us to be doing it on a state-by-state resolution. And for somebody who owns a brewing company, I feel very strongly, ethically, that anything that encourages moderate drinking is important for us. Not just financially, but we want to feel good about our product, and if that encourages moderate drinking, we'd be glad to do it, but we want to do it federally mandated.
Does anybody here think, now, if we did it federally, one of the arguments that they have against this proposal is they say, wait a minute, it's expensive. I've got to put on a different label for Oregon than the other states. So, answer, she says, we'll do it federally, so we have to have the label anywhere. Is there anybody here who says that's a bad idea? They shouldn't mandate this on the label? Is there anybody here who's opposed to that? Right there. You're opposed to the idea of putting the alcohol content on the label? Is that correct?
Actually, I am opposed to that.
Why, Anthony Taylor, the sort of our hawk? I'm surprised. Why would you be opposed to that?
Well, I think that that we need to... lost my train of thought there for a moment. I'm against it because I think that it needs to... There has never been, especially on the federal level, there has never been an overall policy that addresses all the drugs implemented. And when we start letting the federal level come in and insist and mandate through threatening of removal of funds and that sort of thing, that's when we start to get into trouble with our drug abuse problems. We don't have the local control.
Does anybody think, though, that it would be a bad thing to have the alcohol content in the label? Do you think it's a bad thing?
Not really a bad thing. I just think you have to go very cautiously on this because the original alcohol content labeling fight was between Coors Brewing Company and some of the other national companies like Anheuser-Busch and Miller. And the reason Coors wanted it was their beer was perceived to be the lighter beer. And they wanted people to buy theirs because it was as strong as Budweiser. The second thing in alcohol content labeling is Anheuser-Busch just took off the market their LA beer, which is low alcohol beer. It was targeted specifically to people who wanted to buy down in alcohol content. I think what's happening out there, people are buying down in calories, but they're not buying down in alcohol content. And the problem is if you put that out there, We think all consumer information would be good if it's done at the federal level. The problem, if you put it out there, are you really going to have people buying down, or are they going to really buy up?
And does anybody know? Maybe they don't. What do you think?
I think the people that are actually supporting these companies through purchases are the ones that are addicted to the product, and they don't really care what kind of label's on it, warning or otherwise. It makes no difference to the alcoholic. And there's 18 million of us in the United States, so it's a pretty high percentage of people that are buying it. The normal people can respond to the ads of moderation, but they're not buying as much of it.
In the back, you, sir.
My name is Stephen Kafori. I'm an attorney, and I represent Blitz Weinhardt Beer. It's interesting to me, Jack. We hear a lot of conjecture in this program, and very seldom do people say facts. And the facts are not whether what we think it might happen or might not happen, but if you look at other countries in the world where they do have alcohol content labeling, as Blitz Weinhardt suggests, the consumption of low alcohol beer goes up.
So that's you agree with the original proponent.
That's data. That's data. Hard data.
Hard data. Let's switch to another concept of awareness that you brought in here. Your idea was to put up warning signs. Tell me, what would a sign like that say?
We would like it to say that pregnancy and alcohol do not mix.
Would it look something like this?
It would look exactly like that.
Pregnancy and alcohol do not mix. Drinking alcoholic beverages, including wine, wine coolers, and beer during pregnancy can cause birth defects. Now, you said you would put these signs everywhere where alcohol is sold, and that would include restaurants.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Restaurants, bars, grocery stores.
Mm-hmm. And what, in your view, would those signs do?
We would like to just bring in awareness. It's an education, it's an advertisement tool for to inform women that pregnancy is not the time to drink alcohol.
Do you think that there is a lot of ignorance of that now today?
I do. I think people still do not know that about fetal alcohol syndrome. And the people that do know about it think that only damage can happen when you drink very, very heavily during pregnancy. We don't know how much is too much.
Now, anybody here from the Restaurant Association? Right there, you, sir. What do you say to that? Just this sign is a very small sign, but they might want it bigger. Any problem with putting up this little sign in your restaurants?
My name's Bill Cross, and I'm with the Oregon Restaurant Association. The problem, we would have a problem with the signage only because 92% of the women already know that there's a relationship between alcohol and fetal alcohol syndrome.
How does the sign hurt, Bill? What's the harm of just putting up a sign?
Well, it's like any other product we sell. Anything that's consumed to a greater extent than it should moderately be consumed, we're going to have to post warnings. What will be next? You know, coffee, sugar, salt. The problem being that the education that's going on, which we support, should be going on with the woman and their physician, or going on in the classroom at an early age before they become pregnant.
Do you think this would cut down on your sales of alcohol in restaurants to pregnant women?
No. By the time they get to a restaurant, they've already made a choice, and they're not likely going to be persuaded by a placard that's hanging along with 14 other licenses and signs at that door that they should not be consuming alcohol.
Right there, you, ma'am.
Susan Winsky, coordinator for Oregon Drug and Alcohol Information Center. It takes 3 impressions for everyone. If they see the sign 3 times, we know that it's not going to work the first time, it's not going to work the second time, but the third time it might work. They may not drink. And then he also brought up the idea that it should be between the person and the lady and her doctor. I can't tell you how many physicians, at least in Oregon, still tell women that an occasional glass of wine when they're pregnant is okay. We don't know that for sure, but the physicians are not all trained on alcohol and drug abuse either.
Right there, you, sir.
Yeah, Michael Pierce, coordinator for Oregon Consumers Liquor Lobby. I'd like to take the opposite position on a lot of this. The figures that you stated earlier, 3 out of 4 families in Oregon don't have a problem with alcohol, do not have the genetic link to alcoholism, are not addicts, are not abusers, and don't cause all of the problems. In fact, they can and do drink in moderation and are aware that the alcohol in beer and wine is the same molecule as the alcohol in whiskey and Kahlua. What our group proposes to do is to change the laws to favor the consumer. We want to turn the OLCC into a consumer protection agency that acts in our favor. We want a repeal of all taxes that don't directly affect society. I mean, alcohol will pay for its impact, as you quoted earlier, and I'd like to get a little more accurate on those figures. And, in fact, alcohol taxes would fund a year-round use in the entire state of Oregon of the MAD program that they do only on New Year's of providing free taxi rides if you're drunk. I think that that is a legitimate use of alcohol taxes. But what we want to do is to make sure that the structure of Oregon law says you're an intelligent adult. You don't have anything wrong with you, and if you do, you already know that you shouldn't drink. So we're going to respect your intelligence and your maturity, and we're going to make it available. We're going to stop closing the bars at 2:30 in the morning, which makes life difficult for swing shift workers. Granted, it's a small minority, but why should they be discriminated against by an arbitrary closing time? There's a lot of little issues like that, and the average user who does not have a problem with alcohol in any way needs to be addressed.
Now, I'm going to take your points two at a time, because somebody over here, when we asked for suggestions, said higher taxes on alcohol. You mentioned that. Who said that? Right there. Would you identify yourself, please?
Joan Johnson. I have a daughter that had gone through treatment a few years ago.
Joan Johnson, what do you think that higher taxes on alcohol would do?
I would hope, well, my fear would be that it would cause more crime to get the money to buy the alcohol. Hurt the alcoholic, you know, make them pinch their pennies more than they have to, and let the person that drinks, whether it's a normal drinker or an addict, let them suffer instead of our kids in the school, Job Corps kids, CSD. You know, it just breaks my heart. The kids are suffering. Why not let the bottom line of drugs and the drug and alcohol addiction, and let the drinkers suffer?
How does the industry respond to that? Because, of course, one of the commonest suggested taxes always is what's called sin taxes. And in fact, we just recently had a round of those, didn't we, nationally? And one of the things that's always suggested, let's tax alcohol. How does the industry respond to this idea that we can raise money here for needed programs, and we can cut back, perhaps we can induce some tolerance by toleration, that is, by running up the price? How do you respond? Who wants to take that from the industry? Right there. I'll go back to you, Bill Cross.
Increased taxation won't reduce consumption. And the countries like Iceland, the Scandinavians, Russia, Canada have all tried increasing taxation. It hasn't reduced consumption. It changes patterns of consumption and oftentimes buying different products, but it won't ultimately address the consumption, overall consumption.
So you're saying, as I understand you, Bill Cross, that there is actually experience abroad that shows that the increasing in the taxes will not reduce the consumption. Is that correct?
Correct.
And I see heads on your side nodding over here. Who wants to take the other side of that? You, sir, right there. Identify yourself, please.
Smith. I'm Executive Director of Harmony House. We operate alcohol and drug treatment programs. There is a very dire need for increased taxes on alcohol because our programs, state funded, we're only funded at 50% of our operational cost. And our waiting lists are growing and growing and growing. So it's vital that there be an increase on the sale of wine and beer and hard liquor. In fact, there is a bill being proposed this year to increase the tax on wine and beer. It's very definitely needed because our programs are so few and we're so underfunded that we can't do the job that has to be done for our state's #1 public health problem.
Okay, that's a response to the fiscal or the monetary. And what about the idea that he says it won't reduce consumption? Does anybody disagree with that? You disagree? No, I don't think so.
I think that over the long haul it will decrease consumption if you can utilize some of that tax money for preventive education for children. I don't think my grandchildren are going to drink and use dope as a result of what they've learned in preschool and grammar school and grade school. They have been say no to drugs and taught about alcohol from the age of 3 or 4, and they're very aware of it. I think if there were more money available for the preventive education programs taken directly from the drug itself. Take it right out of alcohol. If you want to use the drug, pay your fees, pay the dues, and let's eventually try to get a generation of children that don't think that it's a whole lot of surfing downhill and smiling on the ski slopes.
The money's there now, Jack. The money's there now. I got to address this because...
No, you don't, because we have to go. What we heard about here, we've heard about some suggested controls. We've heard a problem described, some suggested controls. But there are those who think, in some ways, already we've gone too far. We'll talk about that when we come back right after this.
Perkins women, 4 generations, are baking.
Nestle's Toll House cookies.
Here's the secret ingredients.
Nestle Toll House morsels, that's a secret?
They're so rich and creamy.
Oh, yeah, rich and creamy.
Hey, how about saving some for the cookies?
I think the Nestle Toll House morsels are the creamiest.
Oh, well, then they must be the creamiest.
Rich, creamy Nestle Toll House morsels make your house a Toll House.
Oh, thanks, Mom.
Thanks, Mom.
How much would you pay for a McDonald's hamburger?
I think about $1.49 to $2.29.
Right now, I'd give my eye teeth. $1. McDonald's announces some big changes.
Like what?
From now on, you can get our original hamburger for just 59 cents.
All right.
Our delicious cheeseburger's just 69 cents.
Oh, I like cheese.
And McDonald's sausage biscuit is just 79 cents.
Great deal. Real deal.
New lower prices mean you'll love the change at McDonald's.
Is it true? Really true?
You'll enjoy eating more, knowing that a team of Gentle Dental experts works hard to make sure your dental implants are just right for you. Gentle Dental is the only place where an oral surgeon, a gum specialist, a technician, and a dentist work together for your dental implants. Call Gentle Dental today. At Gentle Dental, you can be sure of your dental implants as well as your confidence.
You deserve the best.
The war with Iraq is over, but the battle over our nation's energy policy is just beginning. The president says we should drill for more oil within the United States. Environmentalists advocate gas taxes, carpooling, and fuel efficiency. What will fuel America? Breaking the oil addiction, next week on Town Hall.
All right, let's take a look at one vigorous control locally and some reaction to it. Would you identify yourself, please?
Sergeant Hediger. I'm with the Portland Police Bureau Vehicle Forfeiture Unit.
Vehicle Forfeiture Unit, and that kind of speaks for itself. But tell our viewers, what is it you do? When do you forfeit a vehicle, and what does that mean?
Okay, well, in the context that would be of interest here, that would be when a driver is apprehended by the police, he's driving while suspended, and he's had a conviction for driving under the influence within the prior 5 years. All those criteria fall into place, and we can seize the vehicle. It's forfeited.
And when you say that it's forfeited, you mean that's gone. They don't come down and pay a fine and get it back. Is that correct?
No, they don't.
And how do you think that's working?
Well, I think it has to have an effect if you think about it. Basically, it's sort of a remedial action in that these people are continuing to drive without insurance, drive without benefit of a license. We're simply taking the vehicle away, and that's taking away the means to continue doing that.
And in essence, the idea behind it is you're disabling them. Is that right? Identify yourself, please.
My name is Jenny Cook. I'm a criminal defense lawyer here in town, and I defend the forfeiture cases that come out of the cars that Sergeant
How do you react to the idea? It's a disabling. Would you say, Sergeant, that you think you're saving lives in your work?
I would say that it would.
They're saving lives. How do you respond to that?
I think civil forfeiture is a misnomer. I think that what it really is a clever way to punish people for wrongdoing without having to go through the bother of convicting them of crimes. And I don't think that it's civil in any way.
What do you think of the idea, though, that we are saving lives? That he says they're saving lives.
The death penalty for driving while intoxicated would save lives. The question is, how much of our civil liberties are we willing to give up to do it?
How do people feel about that? Are we giving up too much in the way of civil liberties? You, sir, right in the back. Give him
everything in the name of civil liberties, certainly.
Identify yourself, please.
My name is John Conway. I'm a senior at Lewis and Clark College, and I am also an alcohol server. I think that earlier in the program you showed that the cost to society in dollars is $136.6 billion. Well, certainly nobody's addressed the fact that it generates a huge amount of income for the nation. The majority of the people here who are speaking for the alcohol industry would not have these jobs without this industry. Nobody's brought up a dollar figure of the amount of money that it brings into our society. And certainly I can't speak to the emotional cost, but the people who are in the situation of not being able to handle alcohol have a responsibility to avoid it. But the rest of the people in our society don't have the responsibility to tolerate that. The society kind of has to address the general population who are not alcoholic.
You talked about that before, Michael Pierce. That was your point. You said, look, most of us can handle it. Why should we have our choices inhibited by 2:30 closures, etc.? Do you want to expand on that point?
Exactly. It's looking at the people who have real problems and saying that because those people have problems, then everybody under the equal protection statutes has to be treated alike. And that doesn't make any sense. And by the way, I was advocating a tax cut. The alcohol tax right now is a cash cow for the general fund. Hardly any of that actually goes into the impact of alcohol. If we passed the things I want to see, the price of alcohol would drop, and considerably. But it is definitely a civil liberties problem, and we cannot have another prohibition. The last prohibition created the mafia as we came to know it in all the
we'll be
movies.
talking about that. I just want to get the response. How do you respond to this idea when they say you're inhibiting choice for adults who should be able to make their own choice? How do you respond to that? Right there, you, sir.
Well, alcoholism is a coy, sneaky, sly, progressive illness, and everybody who becomes an alcoholic was at one time a social drinker. It's sneaky, so I think that debunks your theory. For example, Betty Ford didn't wake up one day and say, gee, I think I'll become an alcoholic. She had a choice. Did she have a choice? She was a social drinker at one time, and through this progressiveness and this coyness, and it's so sly and sneaky, it creeps up in a person, and they cross that magical line, and then they are a full-blown alcoholic. So all alcoholics were social drinkers at one time.
Talks about choice, and that's the question. How far should we push that pendulum in the direction of control? We'll talk about that when we come back right after this.
With most guys, their favorite suit is the one they wear with sneakers. The high-level meetings they enjoy most take place in their driveway. And the country club they belong to has no official dress code. That's why there's Mervyn's, the store for all the comfortable, casual clothes you wear most, at very comfortable prices. Mervyn's, for the clothes you love to live in. Because the last premiere you attended probably starred someone you know very well.
Through the years, life has improved in a big way. At last, progress comes to the common checkbook. First Interstate Bank introduces the world's smallest checkbook. Now you can use the First Interstate Gold Bank Card instead of a check in all the places Visa works. It can pay for little things and big things. It's a faster and easier way to use your checking account because you don't have to write a check. Ask for the world's smallest checkbook at First Interstate Bank of Oregon. It will change your life in a big way.
If you need tires and like the idea of saving money, Les Schwab's Truckload of Savings is for you. Read all about it in the big, colorful Les Schwab flyer. It's Les Schwab's biggest spring tire sale ever. You'll find special truckload savings on pickup and RV tires, including Les Schwab's finest and most popular Wild Country. Savings on shocks, struts, and batteries. And wait till you check out our new lower prices on custom wheels. This and a whole lot more happening now during Les Schwab's Truckload of Savings, the spring tire sale.
Monday only at Smith's Home Furnishings. Look for exceptional values and buy with no cash out of your pocket until September. For example, Monday only, you can buy this 19-inch Sony Color TV for just $347, an incredible low price for a Sony. It features the famous Trinitron picture tube, stereo speakers, and remote control, all for just $347, plus no down payment, no monthly payments, and no interest until September. Monday only, and only at Smith's Home Furnishings.
Before the program, I asked some of our good people in here, I asked all our good people here, I said, if you were king, how many of you would prohibit alcohol entirely? And some hands went up. One of them was yours. If you were king, you would prohibit it.
Exactly. One more time, what are we saying to the kids? Why don't we have crack taverns and cocaine taverns? Alcohol's a drug. Why is it okay? Is it because of the money from the breweries? I have one question for the brewers. Excuse me. I love a sale, and if I see you have alcohol content, in the days when I drank, if I see you have alcohol content on your liquor bottles, I'm going to want the one that has the highest because then I don't need to buy so much. So would you be willing to put alcohol as a drug?
Let's revisit that because we've beaten it. I'm going to keep this on track. And the track you put us on is there is the statement that, yes, and we know that there are people out there who would prohibit it. For our viewers, what is the response to that? What is the response to the argument for total prohibition? Who wants to give us that response? Right there, you, sir.
It didn't work. When they did it before, it didn't work. It enriched, empowered, and enabled a group of minor street thugs in Little Italy to become a worldwide crime organization worth billions of dollars. It didn't work any more than it's working with the hypocritical war on drugs that they run from Washington. It's the same old story. Ronald Reagan with a glass of wine in his hand saying, just say no, while we ship literally billions and billions and billions of dollars to fellows in Lima and Barranquilla and Panama who would otherwise be nothing but petty street hoodlums.
Do you see a
Prohibition
hypocrisy in that?
Massive hypocrisy, and Prohibition simply doesn't work. It opens up opportunities for the criminal.
Right there, you,
Yes,
sir.
I'm Bob McNeil with Oregonians concerned about addiction problems. I've done a lot of study about the Prohibition era. In fact, I've just written a biography of one of the Prohibition leaders. It did greatly reduce the alcohol consumption in this country. The cases of cirrhosis of the liver were greatly reduced. The amounts of course, they didn't have the kind of traffic in those days that we have today, but drunk driving was greatly reduced, and these other things that are related to the abuse of alcohol. So it did reduce the consumption. I don't think we have the national will to have prohibition, and I don't think it's realistic today, but we do have to address this from the consumer side. And I think the industry is glad to sell us low alcohol content beer or non-alcoholic beverages if there's a demand for it. And I think it's time that we have a national policy that encourages the non-use or extreme moderate use of alcohol as a policy for our nation.
Is there a demand? Is there a demand? We hear now, what we're hearing is, oh, alcohol is going out, it's going out. Is that true? It's not true? You should identify yourself.
I'm Dr. David Moore. And I want to make two things very clear here. Alcohol is not the cause of alcoholism. Most people in this country drink and drink responsibly. The alcoholic, for some quirk of his own biology or psychology, cannot control his use. It makes no sense to remove all of the alcohol from people who drink responsibly in order to get rid of the problem in the 10 or 12% who are alcoholic. Now, the answer here is this. If this were compared to the other drugs, and they mentioned cocaine and heroin are obligate addictive drugs in a short period of time. Alcohol is not. And we learned in medical school something. The only difference between any medicine and a poison is the dose. So if someone has 1 beer per day for the rest of his life and it isn't progressive and he's not out of control, he's not an alcoholic. On the other hand, those of us, and I'm recovering, got into the problem where I could not control the drinking, so I was forced to go into treatment and get out, and it's the best move I ever made. The problem was denial is the #1 symptom of alcoholism. And to say that we can advertise our way out of this or legalize our way out of it is nonsense. All we can do is point out the problem and treat the victim and hope for the best. Is education the answer? You bet.
Right there, you, sir.
I'm Gary. I'm a recovering alcoholic addict. I believe that he's right to a certain extent that people can be, social drinkers and not have a problem with it, but that most of the time is not true. A lot of people do have a problem with this. They start as a social drinker, and it sneaks up on you, just as the gentleman over here just said recently. But there's an inheritance to drugs and alcohol too. If your parents were possibly alcoholics, it can be passed on through your bloodstream, through your blood system. It just carries on. If you're passed down to relatives or something has alcohol, it can carry on to you. But it's not always true. A lot of people can be social drinkers, but then again, I'm for both sides. It's a very confusing subject.
Back to you. Please re-identify yourself.
I'm Bruce Farm.
Bruce, the question I have for you now is this. There's an assumption in a lot of the conversation here that alcohol is without redeeming social value. You're selling Blitz Weinhardt beer, Henry Weinhardt beer. Do you believe in your product?
I believe in it.
What's good about it? Is there a good side? Let's take a look at that.
Yeah, alcohol in moderation. Beer is considered a moderate drink in alcohol content. Promotes sociability, conviviality. It relaxes people. It is not damaging except to a minority of the people. Used intelligently, with education, and responsibly.
How about the argument I'll put to you that Franklin Roosevelt used to do away with Prohibition? He wasn't talking about morals. He was talking about dollars. What is there an economic value to your industry?
Well, certainly. And Blitz Weinhardt contributes $100 million a year to the Oregon economy. That's spread out. We have 800 vendors and charitable organizations and suppliers that benefit from that.
What do you say to that?
I'm not really happy about it.
Back to you, Victoria. We've heard the two, this is what we always say, used in moderation. It can be, you were really shaking your head at that part when they talk about being used in moderation for social conviviality, etc.
Yeah, what's wrong with our society that we have to drink something in order to have nerve to talk to each other in a wholesome, honest way. I think that's what our problem is here.
Dennis, what about the answer to the dollars?
I don't know if I can address that, but one of the things...
It's an industry.
If I can jump back on this for a second, I'm kind of wondering how a product that may impair your thinking, how you use that moderately when it can affect your ability to decide what moderation is. I don't know if there's some kind of circular logic there. Question about the dollars. Someone mentioned back here a while ago that the amount of dollars paid in taxes covers the cost that alcohol inflicts on our society. And from my reading, that the tax dollars come nowhere near to, in terms of repaying the impact that alcohol has.
I've got another morality question here, fall around that general idea. Would you identify yourself?
My name is Chris Lyons, and I'm the administrator of the Oregon Liquor Control Commission.
Chris, I'm going to ask you to answer for our viewers a question that will not be new to you, and that is people who say to you, isn't it immoral for the state of Oregon to be purveying alcohol? How do you respond to that?
Basically, what I try to do is go back and explain that 50 years ago, at the end of Prohibition, the idea was to not only allow the state of Oregon to sell hard liquor, allow the private sector to sell beer and wine, and that was a pretty good balance, that it was the concern for overconsumption, the concern for moderation that really put the state of Oregon in the liquor business, and that the Liquor Commission, with its view, with its obligations under the law, has a really strong understanding about the problems associated with alcohol. And at this point, the legislature and the citizens think that there really isn't anyone better to be selling hard liquor, because the Commission has really a very good view about the dangers associated with this commodity.
Who are you afraid of is going to be selling it if you don't?
Well, I think what you would find is that it would be sold in the same way that beer and wine is, that in Oregon you would see probably 1,000 other places around the state selling hard liquor. And that's a decision for the legislature and a decision for the people. If the people of Oregon want liquor sold by private industry, that will happen.
Heard some ideas. Let's look for some innovation when we come back right after this.
The Perkins women are baking.
Nestle's Toll House cookies.
Here's the secret ingredient.
Nestle Toll House morsels, that's a secret?
They're
You
so
betcha.
rich and creamy. Nestle Toll House morsels are the creamiest.
Nestle Toll House morsels. Make your house a Toll House.
Oh, it's sore, it's tender from having to blow it so often.
Introducing Puffs Plus, the first tissue that's first aid for a sore nose.
It's got something in it, something soothing in there.
Lotion? Yeah, lotion. It's really light, silky. It was just the right amount.
New Puffs Plus is the only tissue with moisturizing lotion with aloe, so it's better than other tissues at soothing a sore nose.
My nose feels great.
It is so soothing. I mean, it's amazing.
New Puffs Plus, first aid for your sore nose.
My nose feels better. Yes, it does.
If you've money problems and don't know what to do, can't pay your bills and your charge card too, we can help. Consumer Credit Counseling Service, we can help. Solve your credit problem, here's some good advice. Call Consumer Credit Counseling, they'll always treat you nice, let them help.
Dial 232-8139, 232-8139.
Look Who's Talking, weekdays on KATU Channel 2. Donahue at 3, Oprah at 4. His show at 3, her show at 4. Now that's something to talk about. Weekdays on KATU Channel 2.
Tonight, Corky's off to Chicago, but nothing goes as planned.
I got lost, I got robbed, and I met a girl.
Life goes on. Then,
The next all-new America's Funniest Home Videos is so spontaneously, hysterically, unequivocally funny, it'll bring a laugh to your mouth. Tonight.
and meet millions of twisted individuals on an all-new America's Funniest People.
Tonight on KATU Channel 2.
Innovations. Here's one. You, sir, would you identify yourself?
My name's Larry Masterton. I'm a recovering alcoholic, a restaurant and bar owner.
Tell us about your business. What is your business?
I own a restaurant in Albany called Timber Country, and we have a cocktail lounge called Cutter's Edge. And as far as we know, it is the first totally non-alcoholic cocktail lounge.
Line it up for on rock.
In the area.
Here we go. Let's have a look at it. Is that your place? And what are those drinks? What are they having?
Probably everything that you would find in a normal cocktail lounge except one thing, and it's alcohol.
How do people respond to that?
Somewhat the same as what we're seeing here, hypocritical.
What do you mean hypocritical?
It's a nice idea and you're doing a fine job, but we don't want to come there because we go buy alcohol. And that's basically what we're finding.
Time running down again. We have, as I said earlier, here's something that we're not going to get rid of. How can we live with it? How can we better the situation? What are some ideas?
Alternative.
Right there, you, sir.
My name is Jason. I'm a recovering alcoholic and addict. And I believe that the best way to take care of the problem is to find the solution is to go straight to the problem and find out what are our options. Now, the best one I feel is the education, but not only at the level of the children, but at the level of the parents.
How would you educate? What would the message of the education be?
To look back at the history of the families, because not only is alcoholism a social disease, but it is a genetic disease and is passed on from mother to child or from father to child. To go through and look at what the destructions are, and to really give the child the option is, do you want this to happen, or would you rather take the chance?
Would your education, or would someone else's education program here include a just say no? Would someone favor that? Would you favor that?
Would I favor just say no?
To kids, telling them just say no.
No, because if you just say no, you don't know what you're saying no to. You got to know what you're saying no to.
Would you favor doing just say no
I
to
would
kids?
favor just say yes. I would want to promote the non-alcoholic bars and support those type of businesses as they come about. And I would want to promote a national ethic about alcohol that says drunkenness is unacceptable in our culture.
Industry response, right there. Back to you, Paul.
I think a lot of the stuff is the solutions are unrealistic. People are going to drink. What you need to do is go after the problem drinker, and that's why the vehicle forfeiture ordinance in the city of Portland, which we as beer and wine distributors supported wholeheartedly, Blumenauer's idea, it works in the city, and it targets the problem drinker. It says we're going to get that person off the road. Those are the type of things, the locking ignition so somebody can't drink and drive. Those are the innovative ideas. Instead of trying to focus down on the social drinker, that coupled with education, that's going to work.
Someone hasn't spoken with a quick idea. Right there, your time. Right there, you, sir. Very quickly, please.
Restaurant industry, expand the education to the people that serve the product. We do it in our industry in Oregon. Why don't we do it with everybody who sells it?
What do they need to know, the people who dispense it? Very quickly.
They need to know the dangers of the product they serve and how to control those dangers.
And it is a difficult problem here that we're talking about tonight. We have something that is with us. We have something that people don't like, but that is going to be with us. And yet the words that keep coming out again and again are not here. We don't hear much of a call here for prohibition. The words that keep coming out are two. The first one is education. Understand what it's about. And the second and always is moderation. Thank you for tuning into Town Hall. Good night.
The Gulf War is now over, but the battle over energy is just beginning. Should we kick the oil habit? Next week on Town Hall. This is KATU Channel 2 Portland, saluting the spirit of the Northwest in Oregon.